Hello and welcome back to These Three Things. My guest today positively lives and breathes music to the very heart of his Welsh bones. He is the most outstanding conductor and arranger, and he is also Director of Music at the prestigious Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama. It is an absolute honour to have my friend here today, Tim Rhys-Evans. How are you? Welcome.
Thank you, Debs. That's quite a build-up. Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
Lovely to have you. How
Gorgeous
are
to
you?
see you. I'm
Yeah?
good, thank you. Yes.
Excellent. How do you feel about today? Have you been thinking about your list?
I have. Do you know, it's really hard. It's just been really lovely to think about those three things, these three things,
Yeah.
and to just really realize that I'm where I am today because of all of that. Everything has led me here to talk to you.
Yeah, I know. It is. It's the people, places and things that have made and shaped us. So I am so looking forward to hearing who you've chosen. And I agree, it's not an easy list to formulate. And just to reiterate, it is not the person that you love the most, because I know you choose your darling husband. But it is the person that set you closer to your destiny somehow. So let's start. Who did you choose and why?
I honestly feel that there have been a whole troop of guardian angels, whatever the collective noun for guardian angels is, and host maybe would be
Yes.
better. I've been so blessed in my life to have people who saw something in me and wanted to enable me to realize my potential, I guess. Uh, yes, my darling husband, Alan, my wonderful family, my mum, Nana, so many people. But when I've really looked back, there is a man who just played a really pivotal role in so much of my musical destiny. And he was a gorgeous man from Ferndale in the Rhondda.
Right.
The most dyed-in-the-wool Rhondda boy you could have ever hoped to meet. Beautiful man inside and out. His name was Brian Davis. And his kind of nickname was also the Rachmaninoff of the Rhondda.
Oh, brilliant.
He was an extraordinary man. I first met Brian when I was privileged to be a member of the Mid Glamorgan Youth Choir, and I went to my first residential course with them, and Brian was the pianist. Brian was about 5'1", and he had these. He used to describe them himself. He had little chipolatas for fingers. But my goodness, when he put those chipolatas to the piano keyboard, what he was able to draw out of the instrument was incredible. And it all came, I say this with no sort of over sentimentalization, it all came from the heart.
Mm.
His first love, apart from his gorgeous wife and family, was music. He lived, ate, slept, breathed music. And he had the most immediate way of communicating that to you. He was always seen with a plastic carrier bag. And I'll always remember the day when he said, "Oh, I've gone up market, I've got a Marks and Spencer's carrier bag." And in his carrier bag was all the music he was working on at that time. But so I was about 15 when I first met Brian. And I'd realized for some time at that stage that music was going to be what I hoped was going to be my profession. And I asked him if he would be my piano teacher. And he said, because he'd heard me play the piano just like mucking around one evening after rehearsal. And he said, "Oh, you've got something about you, my boy." And I asked him, would he be my teacher? And he said, "No, and I can't do that. I don't have private pupils." But he introduced me to another of my guardian angels, a man called Jonathan Gulliford, who became my piano teacher then. So that introduction had happened. But then I went to university and eventually went to the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama as a singer to do my master's degree. And Brian was a coach there. And I was so looking forward to going there because I was going to be able to have the wealth of his experience and I'm going to be able to work with him on a weekly basis. And every one of those lessons that I had was just a true communion of two people who were deeply, deeply passionate about music, also deeply rooted in the valleys. You know, I'm from
Mm-hmm.
the Rumney Valley, from New Tredegar.
Mm.
He was from the Rhondda, from Ferdale, and he just had this most incredible way of lifting you up without you ever realizing that that was what he was doing. He always used to say to me, "I learn more from these sessions with you than you do," and I was just that was completely not the case. But he just had this incredible generosity, um, and he also had uh, a brilliantly assertive way, a quiet assertion. I remember um, one particular time, and coming from the valleys, some of the first experiences I had for hearing music, live music, was the local male choirs singing in my chapel or in other chapels in the valleys, and and then I'd hear the soloists that would be with those choirs. So that was whether that was Dennis O'Neill or Stuart Burrows, real opera greats, people who were singing at the biggest opera houses in the world, would be singing with the Bargoed Male Choir or the Rumney Silurian Male Choir, and I would go to all of these concerts. But then I went away to university, and I went 20 miles to Cardiff to university, and then to the Royal Welsh College. And I discovered opera, and I discovered Wagner, and I remember saying to Brian one day in one of our sessions, I said, "Oh, I'll never have anything to do with a Welsh male choir." And he just looked at me and he said, "You be careful what you say, my boy." And I was really taken aback because most of our time was either spent talking about music or it was laughing, because
Okay.
he had a wicked sense of humor. Oh
Really?
my goodness, he was so much fun, so much fun. So that was that gentle admonishment that I got at that point, but I didn't really think anything of it.
Mm.
Um, and then I graduated, and I started singing professionally.
Was that your full-time job as a graduate?
Yeah, so
Yes.
it wasn't a full-time job. I was freelance,
Mm-hmm.
but I was doing lots of different operas and having a wonderful time. And I was like 23, 24 or
Yeah.
something. And then I had a gap in my diary, and there was this call for people to go on a 3-month tour of America. They were
Mm-hmm.
looking to start a 32 voice male choir called the Black Mountain Male Chorus of Wales. And a couple of my mates were going on this tour, and it was all expenses paid. So it worked out. It was a great way of seeing the
Yeah.
States. And then the conductor, a lovely man called Alan John, was advised by his doctor that he shouldn't travel. He was, well, when I think back now, he's probably about the age I am now, but for whatever reason, Alan wasn't able to go. And we were going in about a month's time, and we didn't have a conductor. So Brian said to the organizer, Mike, you should ask Tim to be the conductor.
He put you forward.
So Mike said to me, "Oh, Brian suggested you." And Brian's talking out of his hat. There's absolutely no way. I said, "I've never conducted a choir, apart from one lesson when I was with the chamber choir at university, when I had a little go." I said, "I've never conducted. Can't do that." And Brian said, "You can. I think I." So I said, "I'll do one rehearsal. If that is a disaster, then it's not going to happen." But there was a time pressure on this. So I took that one rehearsal, and it was amazing. I just
Really?
it felt really easy. In fact, I doubted myself because I thought I must be doing something wrong. And I don't say that in a big-headed way. It just felt like this was
What you were
something I
meant to
could
be.
do.
Exactly. Yeah.
And there were so many times in my life when I'd felt that I'd been taking massive zigzags. I was going, one minute I was going to be a pianist, and I was going to be a composer, and I was going to be a singer. And I just felt I was doing this.
Mm.
But now when I look back, I realize that it's just a straight line, because in my work, I use all of those things. I
Yeah.
play the piano, I arrange music, I write music, um, I have to have a knowledge of vocal technique to conduct choirs, because that's what I do. And Brian saw that in me, and I didn't see that in myself.
Exactly.
I've no idea why he believed in me in such a way. And then we went off on this tour, 3 months. I was 24. It's where I met my husband, Alan.
Okay. Was he one of the choir
Yeah,
members?
he was one of he's one of the baritones.
Right.
Yeah. He's a tenor now. Uh, yeah, and we went. It wasn't a glamorous tour. We were playing some really beautiful venues, but as a result of that tour and a subsequent tour, I've been to 45 of the US states before I was 26.
Wow.
We traveled everywhere on a bus. We did 65 concerts in 84 days. We traveled 20,000 miles. We'd literally get on the bus at 7 in the morning, travel all day. Sometimes we were changing on the bus to walk straight onto stage. But that was my first conducting gig. I mean, how blessed was I to have been given a first gig, which was a 65-day tour of the States. And sometimes we were playing in high school auditoriums in small towns. But then we were playing in major auditoriums in
Name me one that was a highlight. Do you remember one?
Portland.
Okay, Oregon.
And
yeah.
I mean, Portland's a beautiful town. And
Right.
we played the Civic Auditorium there. I mean, packed auditorium. These 32 Welsh boys,
Wow.
plus me. And yeah, it was...
The start of things to come. Did Brian manage to fly out and see any of these concerts?
No, Brian was not a traveller.
No, he stayed in the valley. Okay.
There's a wonderful mezzo, Brigitte Fassbender, and she came to the Royal Welsh College and to give a masterclass. And Brian was the pianist for that masterclass. And Brigitte just fell in love with Brian, as everyone did. I mean, he worked with, Bryn Terfel, Rebecca Evans, but whenever anyone speaks about Brian, they smile.
Do they?
Because he just made you feel that you were the most important person. When he was talking to you, he wasn't interested in talking to anyone else. And that is such a gift, I think. And he gave us that gift so generously. But so Brigitte Fassbender was at the college, and she said to him, "Will you travel the world with me and be my accompanist?" And he said, "No, I can't. I couldn't leave Ireland, his wife, and I don't want to leave
Wales.
Ferndale." No. And he really, really gave back to his community. I mean, fantastic arranger. So there aren't many Welsh male choirs that don't sing Brian Davis arrangements. And actually, we were singing some of Brian Davis's arrangements on the tour out in the States. But we came back after this 3 months away, and it had this life-changing experience.
Yeah.
Seen, we'd been in -50 in South Dakota. We'd been in +90 something in Florida. Mount Rushmore, Golden Gate. We'd seen it all. Grand Canyon. Traveled through the day. We spent half an hour in the Grand Canyon. We were all still in our dicky boat because we'd been in Las Vegas the night before.
Wow.
and gone out all night. So it was to
Amazing.
be 24-year-old,
Oh, yeah.
paid to see the States and to have this baptism of fire into conducting for me was pretty extraordinary. But we came back and we did a homecoming concert at the Raden Smith Hall just, by the museum. And Brian came, and he wrote a beautiful letter afterwards, which I still have. And he said, I'm too embarrassed to say.
Please do. Please share something. If you remember a few lines, I'd love to hear what he said.
He said, "I think Wales has found, basically a new conductor for a new generation of choirs."
He wasn't wrong there.
It was pretty extraordinary. On the back of that, then that's what led me to start Only Men Allowed, eventually Only Boys Allowed. And
I take it this man has passed.
Yes.
Passed. And so, may I ask, did he see you at the height of, some of your extraordinary work that you've achieved here in Wales? I mean, had he a moment before his death where he thought, I saw that boy?
Yes, yeah, he had.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
By the time Brian had died, I'd started Only Men Allowed. We'd won the BBC Last Choir Standing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also started Only Boys Allowed, and I remember calling him from one of the National Eisteddfods, and which is a lovely conversation. And Only Boys Allowed had sung at the opening of the Ebbw Vale National Eisteddfod, and yeah, oh, I'm so proud of you, my boy, and and I always used to say, yeah, when you said, "Be careful what you wish for,"
Exactly.
when I'd said in my pretentious ridiculousness, I'll never work with the Welsh male choir. I mean, my whole life I am so grateful that my whole life has been, or a huge part of my life has been with Welsh male choirs.
Do you still sense him now around
Oh
you?
yeah, absolutely. And you know what's been really lovely about thinking about doing this with
Yes.
you was just remembering all of
Yeah.
those times with Brian. And I've still got scores of arrangements that in his own hand, or there are um uh, he'd leave in my pigeonhole at college uh, a, a, a copy of something with a little note. He had beautiful handwriting. It would be paperclipped to the front. Oh, I think you should. This would be a good song for you to start looking at.
And now, you've gone full circle from being a student as an early 20-year-old man, in your young age there as doing your masters, and now you're the director of music in this same college. And do you feel that those characteristics of mentorship and your teaching, are you passing that on? Do you feel like it's also coming through you in the same way it did Brian for your students?
Oh gosh, I hope so. I mean, I would never ever put myself in the same category as him, as a human being, as a musician. He really was extraordinary. And yeah, if Brian had wanted to go on that world tour with Brigitte Fassbender, or if Brian could have done anything
Anything.
with that talent. But there's one line I remember him saying in particular, which was, if I had to choose between professional music making and amateur music making, if I was given the choice one day to say, only one of these things can exist, Brian, what are you going to choose? And he said, it would have to be amateur music making. And I remember thinking at the time, that's a really bizarre thing to say. But what Brian really meant by that was the democracy of music
Yes.
is it should know no class. It should know no barriers. Um, he wasn't saying that amateur music is
Less
less
than.
high quality.
No.
And my goodness, if you think about the brass bands in Wales, the amount of amazing musicians that are out there that do other things for their full-time employment, but it was the love and the need actually to make music
Yeah.
that Brian was talking about. And that's something that has really, really come back to me. And one of the things that I do feel in my job, I mean, if you told the 21-year-old that I would be coming back to the college one day as director of music, I would have just laughed. But one of the things that I'm really, really passionate, and I think that I've always tried to do in my work, is to make sure that we are reaching out to those young
Of
musicians
course.
from every background.
Absolutely. And you are, and you've always held that through all of your work. That's very palpably felt. I'm just thinking about how he would take to the door of Stoutsker now, and hearing that acoustic and thinking, God, my music's being played there. I hope it's being played there.
It is being played there.
Good.
And I was in Japan earlier this year as part of the Welsh Government Wales in Japan year. And Owain Rowlands, a former student of mine at the college, came to me and said, oh, I'd like to sing these. And I was playing for Owain on this tour. He turns up with this medley of Welsh folk songs arranged by Brian Davis.
Ah.
A medley that I had sung when I was with Brian.
And you didn't know.
And I didn't know he was going to bring this. And yet Brian's music is sung all over the world.
I mean, really.
But
Ferndale boy.
absolutely.
How great.
And Brian never lived to see the Dora, um, and I don't know what I think he would just be completely overcome by that.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, the college that I attended was very different
Yes.
physically from the one that's there now. But what has never changed at the Royal Welsh College is the really student-centered approach to the learning environment, the warmth, the nurturing, the um, the belief that uh, if you meet a student as a young professional and that student is prepared to put in the work,
The possibility is endless, isn't it?
you're enabled,
Yeah.
and yeah, we didn't have the fleet of Steinway pianos that we have, and I know Brian would have loved playing all of the, but Brian could make music on a tin can,
Yeah,
and
quite.
he would meet you if you were a 5-year-old or if you were a 95-year-old. If you wanted to make music with Brian, he wanted to make music with you, and I am so grateful.
I don't think you could have picked. I mean, it's so obvious now as you sit here and you discuss this man and the impact he's had on you, and I suppose many other musicians, and his influence across the world, and knowing you and the body of work you've created in 30 years. And you're only just beginning, it's the perfect choice. So to Brian Davis from the Rhondda Valley, God bless him and rest him. What an amazing choice. Thank you. I've loved hearing that.
I've loved really remembering him, and
Yes.
one of the things I often think, and I did tell him what a difference he'd made to me, and he always used to say, "Oh no, you did all the work," but um, it's those things you make. I wish I'd made more of absolutely making him aware of what he did for me. So, Bri, wherever you are now, and he was such a committed socialist as well, and
Was
we used
he?
to have brilliant political debates, and he was he was just
An exceptional
brilliant.
man.
Yeah, he
And
really
at
was.
5'1" with chipolata sausage fingers. Brilliant. Love it. Well, I'm really looking forward to hearing some of his music. Conducted by yourself, maybe in the Dora in 2026.
Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen, and we'll let all our listeners know too. Thank you. That's been absolutely glorious. Let's move on to your place. So my second question, Tim Rhys-Evans, is of all the places you could choose that you go back to or remember having had a profound impact on you, where in the world have you chosen and why?
This is another one that's been so difficult. One of the things I'm always saying to my students is music can take you anywhere, and there is so much of this beautiful world that I've seen thanks to um, being a musician and being paid to go and perform. And so there's been all of those things that have been going through my head. There have also been thinking about the places that mean much to me. Lerrin, a little Cornish village where I used to go on holiday as a child and where I proposed to Alan. Um, uh, Newport, Pembrokeshire, which I love to bits. But there is one place that, a bit like Brian, I think without it, I would not be doing anything that I'm doing today. And that is Carmel Baptist Chapel in New Tredegar. So this was the chapel where my family all worshipped. Both my mum's side of the family and my dad's side of the family were members of the congregation. It's where we would go 3 times on a Sunday, morning service, Sunday school in the afternoon, evening service. There would be Christian Endeavour on a Monday. There would be Bible study on a Wednesday. There would be Young People's Fellowship on a Friday. I'm so privileged to have been born into a family where um, uh, my mother's favourite line was always, "There's no such word as can't." And so if I was ever saying, "I can't do that," she'd just say, "There's no such word as can't. You just haven't learned to do it yet." So there was always a great sense of encouragement. I was a very shy little boy, which many people struggle to believe or understand now. But being with my family or being in chapel, I was absolutely valued and enabled um, to be the best version of myself.
So how many years were you going to this chapel?
I went every week until I was 18. Then I went away to university, and then I would only then go back for sometimes during the holidays, or if I was, you know, all of my family's marriages happened there.
Right, yeah.
It's where all of my family's funeral services took place. It was a real constant in my life,
Mm.
and much of my time in school, uh, I I was, as I said, a very quiet, timid, effeminate little boy, and that brought with it its own
Challenges.
yeah,
Yeah.
and bullying is something that was really constant. Um, I mean, I had lovely friends as well, but um, that never happened in chapel. And when I walked through those doors, I knew I was safe,
In home.
and I knew I could be me. Yeah, home, exactly.
Yeah.
It was a home.
So obviously you've been frequenting this chapel for so many years, and you must have then brought your music and conducting to this place. I mean, how did you develop the music?
My family always say Carmel was the first place I went to as a baby. There was as soon as I'd come home from hospital, it was a thing in our family was that a baby didn't go anywhere until it had been dedicated.
Right.
So I mean,
Straight from the hospital.
I imagine the first Sunday after I was home, went to um and I do remember vividly hearing people singing together for the first time. It was in a singing festival, as we called them, a Gymanfagani. And so then people would come from other chapels in the valley, and there would be hundreds of people, and it was just hymn singing.
Mm.
And I vividly remember it must have been at a Christmas time because it was the the chorus of Ding Dong Merrily on High, the Glo- and I just couldn't believe this music
The
that
sound.
I was hearing. It was just people singing without any fear, without any sense of embarrassment, that full-throated, very Welsh
Hmm.
way of singing. And when I think about the music that I've then arranged for Only Boys Aloud or for Only Men Aloud, so many of those have been our great hymn tunes, Calan Lan or Cwm Rhondda, and that definitely stems back there. So I started having piano lessons very early on, sort of 5, 6, with my grandmother, and then eventually went to Auntie Pat for piano lessons. Auntie Pat lived in number 21. My nana lived in number 25. We lived in number 38.
Great.
Auntie Pat was also the organist at the
Okay.
chapel, and I would love seeing Auntie Pat play. Um, and then eventually, I mean, pretty early on, 10 or 11, um, I was given the opportunity of playing one hymn,
That's so young.
yeah, yeah, it was. And I can't believe that the congregation were so incredibly trusting of this kid.
But your talent was so
Well,
obvious.
I don't know if it was any good, but Auntie Pat was also the pianist of the Bargoed Male Choir, so she would have to go away on a weekend to do concerts on their tour. So very often, or not very often, but at times was not there on a Sunday morning. So
You'd step in.
eventually, so then you're playing hymns, and what that teaches you about harmony, um, about how these chord progressions feel under your fingers. Then you're having to play the music for when people arrive and when people leave. So having some pieces that I would love showing off with for that. And then, I mean, unbelievably, at 14, myself, my Auntie Beth was my mum's younger sister, and only 4 years older than me. So we were always like brother and sister, and she was a beautiful singer. And our friend from the chapel, Helen Morgan, we had an idea that we would start a choir. It's called the Neutradiga United Churches Choir. And for the 4 years then, before I went away to university, we would do a Christmas concert, and a bit like, I always had delusions of grandeur. So I thought we were, King's College, Cambridge on Christmas Eve, ceremony of 9 lessons and carols.
I
But it
bet you
was
weren't
9 lessons and carols.
yeah, not
A-
far off.
And we would also then do a musical around Whitsuntide. So not a stage musical, but a sort of a cantata, but a contemporary cantata. And my goodness, when I look back now, I realize that taught me so much about what I do on a daily basis now, which is running rehearsals. Um, so whether that's the New Tredegar United Churches Choir, whether that's Only Boys Allowed, I'm privileged now to be the conductor of the National Youth Choir of Wales. That all goes back to Carmel, really.
Yes, very much. Your foundation
And
there.
that, Carmel, is also, when I started Only Men Allowed
Yeah.
in 2000, we needed somewhere to do our first performance. So I said, well, I know Carmel would welcome us.
Very first performance
Very
there.
first performance ever of Only Men Allowed was in Carmel Baptist Chapel.
How wonderful.
Brian was in the audience, and that night I realized, actually there's something here, this group of men. So Carmel provided, I always say, for me, yes, it was all of that grounding in faith, but it was also my drama school. It was my first theatre to perform in. It was, and I'm sure there'd be many of the people in the congregation, if they heard me talking about that, they would be horrified. But it was so instrumental in my development as a musician. And I'm so grateful for all of those people, because I'm pretty sure that every one of those performances that I certainly gave as a soloist or playing the organ probably left a lot to be desired, but it allowed me to improve. It allowed me to grow.
Yes.
When Only Men Allowed was 10 years old, we needed somewhere to do our 10th anniversary concert. And by this stage, we'd won BBC's Last Choir Standing. So, there were a couple of days when we'd have to play the Motorpoint Arena twice in Cardiff, because that's how many people were coming to see us. It was incredible. Tours, concert halls, major venues. But I was absolutely determined that we would go back to where it all began. And I took Only Men Allowed back to Carmel for the 10th anniversary concert. And oh my goodness,
Packed.
I'd never ever seen the chapel. There was not, you couldn't put a piece of paper between the people. In the gallery, there were over 800 people. And I remember looking out through the door and the queue up the street of people to come into Carmel. And what nobody knew was a surprise, is that Bonnie Tyler, God love her, just agreed, because we'd recorded Total Eclipse of the Heart with her, and she agreed to come for no fee, just came and was part of that. And that was such a privilege to be able to give that gift back
To the congregation,
to the community,
yeah.
that it enabled me to do all of that. Without
How
that,
special.
none of that would have happened.
How special.
It was.
What a wonderful choice. I've absolutely loved hearing that too. I have one more question to ask you. In the time that we have left now, the treasured possession. So if you were stripped of everything, Tim Rhys-Evans, and you could take just one thing with you, what would you take?
Can I introduce somebody?
Please. Oh, hello. Who's this? Oh my God, who is that?
This is Butty.
Hello, Butty. Your first teddy.
He usually lived about there, and he still smells like I remember him.
Butty, how old were you when you inherited Butty?
Well, apparently I stole him when we'd gone to visit some some family. We had a family who had a farm in just outside Hereford.
Can I see him?
Yes.
Okay.
So
you stole him from who? A cousin?
From a cousin. But I don't ever remember that, because I don't ever remember a time when Butty wasn't there. So his nose, as you might be able to guess, my mum knitted him a new nose and had to put a new button on and a new eye.
I was going to say this eye and this eye completely different. So mum's put in a new nose and a new eye.
Because my brother's hamster, Harriet, ate his face. I was devastated. Uh,
Literally gone.
yes, literally gone. But Buddy was always there. We've been through everything together, and you know, at those times when there were some unhappy times, and Buddy never let me down. Buddy never called me names, and
You pour your whole heart into this little thing. I mean, they
absolutely.
do. I've still got mine.
Oh, what's yours called, Debs?
Earwig.
Oh,
I know.
how charming!
I don't know why. I was 3, but Earwig, I still look at. Now, my daughter's inherited my teddy, and I still look at him thinking, God, you know my whole heart. They do. You
they
pour
do.
everything
They
into
do.
this little thing. So please go back to you're a young boy with Buddy.
It was just, he was with me all the time. I mean, and even a lot longer than it should. I remember when I'd gone to comprehensive school, and I was playing the cornet in the brass band, and there was a residential course in Ogmore, and I was packing to go on my first residential course, and Betty was about to go in my case, and Mum having to sit me down and goes, probably now time to leave Betty at home.
Were you 18?
I was 35.
Oh, I love it.
but
I'm with you.
Every holiday,
Never lost him.
No,
Never forgot him.
No.
I mean, he was literally glued.
Yeah, and you ask any of my family or friends, I'm prone to losing, passports, wallets, phones, all of that.
But not this little fella.
But not Betty, absolutely not. So, and now he lives in my office at home. And,
so lucky mascot.
Yeah.
Who's going to inherit Betty one day?
Well, I remember my dad giving me his cat, which we called Cat Mawr for some reason. It was quite a big cat, I guess. And but I just remember what is this flea-ridden, hideous thing? And I remember Dad being quite upset that I didn't
feel quite
love.
Okay.
So I doubt anyone else will ever want Buddy to be as. So yeah,
I mean, he's just magnificent. I love the ears.
Happy if he ends up in the box with me.
He'll go with you.
Yeah,
for sure. He's a handsome little thing, isn't he?
He's
very, very cute.
He is. Yes.
Hasn't seen the inside of a washing machine, I don't think, has he?
No.
Or a tumble dryer. No, because he'd lose his nose and his eye again.
He would. And it's really interesting because, I had much more glamorous stuffed animals.
Yes.
But no. Things. But nothing ever came close to Buddy.
Gorgeous, gorgeous choice. This has been so enjoyable. I've loved you being a guest. Thank you for everything you shared. To the brilliant Brian Davis of Ferndale, to the chaplain Hugh Tredegar, and to Buddy, your first teddy. I hope you've enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed it very much, Debs. Thanks for letting me witter on.
Well, thank you for being a guest.
Lots of love.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you have enjoyed this episode, please do press subscribe or follow now, or pass it on to a friend. Until next time, bye-bye.